I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Nico. Okay, my video is on and I'm going to pop on the screen. Thanks everyone for joining. I'm Yolanda Saito. I'm a co-CEO and director of Impacti, and we're a digital company that builds tools, cloud-based tools for SMEs and small businesses to be able to do their own sustainability communications in a way that's credible and data-backed. Today, we'll start first with just discussing, why would you be interested in sustainability reporting, but especially reporting aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals, what that is, what it means to you as a small business or a local business, and how our tools can help you. And we're hoping that this can be interactive, of course, so do feel free to pop any questions along the way. We'll be keeping an eye on the chat box, and please do participate in the polls. We're really excited to see your views on this. Okay, so I've shared my screen. I'm just going to go to the first one. So Sustainable Development Goals. Why are we excited about it in terms of Impacti? We were founded about 4 years ago in 2016 by people who were actually advising the offices of the United Nations on sustainability. And these goals came out, and they're basically 17 goals that set out one language for sustainability for everyone. It's effectively a recipe for how to build better societies, and it's applicable to every country and every city in the world. And it's the first time that we've had something like this. I think working in sustainability, it's always been a big pain. That you don't know whether you should be fair trade or biodegradable or FSC certified, etc. There's so many different standards out there, and effectively all of them can land under the SDGs. So there's been so much work that we've been following over the last couple of years to help all businesses to start aligning to the SDGs so that everyone's talking one common language. So I'll start off with the first poll. Nico, if you can send that out. And the question being, honestly, how many of you have heard about the Sustainable Development Goals before this webinar? Okay. So right now, I've shown on here the 17 goals that are up here. And it goes everywhere. I know people have heard about, do you contribute to environmental goals? Do you contribute to social goals? Do you contribute to economic goals? The whole point is that all of these goals are in here in one 17 goal framework. And there's actually 169 different actions within these goals. So it's a bit overwhelming, but don't worry, we have a solution for you on that in one of our tools. But I can see some of our colleagues here. Thank you for those who answered our survey beforehand. But let me just see who's here. Jennifer Porter, I see you from Satsuma Design. And you mentioned that you do work with refugee and migrant women in the Pacific Northwest. And so immediately I look at this and I go, wow, you are contributing to SDG 5 on gender equality. And actually migrant and refugees, migrant workers are a really big deal under SDG 8 on are you providing decent work and economic growth, right? And Ali, I see you from Lantern Brewing as well. And you were talking about supporting the local economy in the way that you are producing the beers and the alcoholic beverages, and all about marginalized communities in the Seattle area. And again, this is under SDG 8, very much so, and SDG 1, no poverty, as well as SDG 10, reduced inequality. So you have a story to tell in all of that as well. And Emily, I'm seeing you from BCU, and absolutely as a co-op, banking cooperative, the financial inclusion piece is a really big piece across many of the SDGs, but I'd say in particular, the driving of greener economies and more inclusive economies in SDG 8, financing in SDG 17, and also in 1. So Nico, how did we do? How many people know about the SDGs before we had this chat?
Can you see that?
Not yet.
It says attendees are now viewing poll results.
Oh,
33% said yes, 50% no, and 17% some.
okay, wow. Great. Fabulous. Okay, well, then I'm looking forward to the Q&A because I really want to learn more about what you know. The SDGs, why do we talk about them as a framework that is relevant in every country? It's because it really is. Every year, a global team out of New York does a review of how countries are doing to the SDGs, and they rank all the countries. And there's all sorts of indicators and data, and they have found out, according to this year's ranking, the US ranks 31st globally in how they're achieving the SDGs. So they are behind countries like Slovenia, the typical ones like Sweden, etc. And when you look at the SDGs, you can kind of quickly see why. Why are these the big societal challenges in the US? And so the big SDGs out of the 17 that were in red for the US are hunger. You know, are local communities getting affordable and nutritious food? Are we tackling obesity and the health problems that come from a food system that is localized and healthy? Reducing inequalities was also highlighted there. And that is all about our marginalized communities. Responsible consumption and production is really a big deal across all developed countries, how we're consuming and how we can make that more environmentally friendly. Climate action, so massive contribution to GHG emissions, both by industry and by people. Peace, justice, and strong institutions is 16, and that talks about how we're doing with the prison systems, how we are protecting people from violence. And then number 17, just how are we working together? So I think if you look at these 6, you can already see that the attendees here are contributing and have a story to tell with each of these 6. And good news, there is actually a city ranking, and Seattle is a leader. It's the 4th best city in the US for meeting the SDGs, which is another reason we're quite interested in working with Seattle, because you do have really interesting innovations happening here that if you can tell the story using this common language, which is the SDGs, you're going to be able to spread that story not only to your consumers, but to other businesses across the US and globally who could actually learn and perhaps partner with you in making a greater impact. Okay, so why create a sustainable business? This survey went out prior to the webinar, and here are the results. Seattle says that ultimately we asked, you know, why are you motivated? And every person who is here is motivated, personally motivated, and that's amazing. But what's good now is that that doesn't have to be the only reason why you're being a sustainable business. A lot of you here, I think over 90%, said that your consumers are also very interested. Your staff, a little bit less so. We had about 65%. But in general, these other reasons, the fact that you are a brand leader, that you are looking to be recognized so that you are policy relevant and can get better incentives from partners, whether they're government or banks, but also that you can make connections with other businesses. Less so was buyers. It looks like right now with your own businesses, you're not getting pressure to be a sustainable business from the companies that are buying from you. How does that reflect globally? So we kind of talk about why the SDGs in particular versus every other sustainability standard out there. And we touched on that briefly by saying it is the sort of Esperanto of every other sustainability standard. But what we now see is that for big companies, 3 years ago, no one mentioned the SDGs, or when they first came out, when that was 2015, about 15% of the companies started. But now it's at about 72% of all sustainability reporting mentions the SDGs. We know that the millennials especially care about this. Our consumers do as well, and that number grows every year. And effectively, this is a framework that was originally conceived for governments. But when they conceived it, they aimed big and said, look, obviously we can't do this alone. And so every government, every NGO, university, and city is starting to design their plans of how they're going to reach these 17 goals. And they're looking for businesses that are able to help them contribute to show that they're making progress on this. Banks and large companies are very closely partnered with these governments. And so they themselves are now starting to design supply chains. And we are actually advising quite a few institutions that are asking us, we'd love to engage SMEs, but how can we do it in a way that doesn't impose all this transaction costs for an SME to be able to say, yes, we hire women. Yes, we give jobs to local and marginalized communities. This is the number of investments. Those are the types of metrics that they're looking for. And right now they don't feel that there's a way to ask that from SMEs. And then because they don't ask it, they don't give those benefits to those businesses, that are actually delivering on these targets. Finally, it's really one of the bigger things that have come out is that now with this COVID pandemic, there's a lot of focus on how local and small businesses have made our cities, our societies stronger. Hashtags being stronger together and build back better. And there's a lot of calls to say, well, look, there's a whole different type of economy coming up, and we need to show how businesses are actually aligning to that in order to be able to operate. So here's a couple just concrete tips that we have. There's sort of a sustainability how-to for small and local businesses. One, stop looking at checklist exercises. Sustainability, from that viewpoint, was very much always a top-down, being imposed on you to answer questions over and over again. Instead, think about it as what opportunities you have to contribute to these challenges, not the risks. And this is where we realized we needed a different type of advice for small businesses rather than corporations, because corporations focus mainly on risk, and all of their tools and all of their metrics are aligned to that. But you as a small and a local business have much more of an opportunity to think of it as something of an opportunity. Third, think big and solve real problems. So those checklists that you used to get that would have very unambitious, uninspiring questions, you don't have to set those up for yourself. You can actually solve real problems like refugees, jobs for refugees, financial inclusion, etc. 4, build collaborations. And if you do, this does make it more cost efficient, and it allows you to make the type of impact that in some ways is now only being made by the bigger companies who are getting credit for that. 5, tell your story authentically and credibly using good indicators and good data. This is where we can help you. And then share great stories, data and visuals. Your sustainability reporting should be a conversation that builds trust, not reports that nobody reads. And effectively, when you think about sustainability communications for a small business, it's sort of what we do for ourselves as an individual. We don't set little targets. We think about who we want to be, we aim big, and we go towards that, because that at least sets the direction of where we're going to go. And hopefully we find people and opportunities to help us along the way. And that's sort of the credible impact story that people are looking for now. And they're tired of sort of the greenwashing and the sustainability washing stories that were very much based on short-term vision. So that's what inspired us to develop our tool. We also realized that the SDGs are being used in Seattle, but also globally now to watch what corporations are doing. The Ellen MacArthur Foundation, in their circular economy indicators and models, they're big proponents of companies that are contributing to the SDGs. Another example is in Colombia. The country of Colombia in Latin America has actually now put together a digital tool that asks all businesses to report on how they're helping the government and the country contribute to the SDGs. Impact is a citizen-run platform that actually crowdsources how companies are doing and exposes them. So if you're not telling your story, someone else will. And Ulula as well is a crowdsourcing platform that raises money for projects according to their SDG impact. When we're talking about setting big goals, here's one example. Microsoft this year came out and said that they're going to be carbon negative. And by 2050, remove all the carbon emissions they've ever emitted since their founding in 1975. And we can debate on that, and I'd love to hear your views on it. But the idea there is, yes, that sounds impossible. But the change has happened where businesses are setting these big goals because they say we're aiming in that direction, and we want to say that we're one of these people trying to figure out how we can actually achieve it, and drawing people to collaborate with them. But let's hear what you think about that here. What we believe at Impacti, I think I've just 2 more slides, then we can go to a Q&A. Well, we believe that every business deserves a sustainability report. So that's what we built our tool to do. We believe that we're at the start of a sustainability revolution for small and medium-sized businesses, but that you do need to connect to make it work. It's time to have small businesses to have their own voice on sustainability, because we can't follow what the larger corporations were doing, and see the power of what crowdsourcing ideas locally and globally can produce, and that digital innovation and data are going to be key for your businesses to be able to tell that story. So we, in short and concept, what we do here is we're developing a tool that allows you to tell your own story. It allows that every business can have a sustainability report. And we like to compare it to, 20 years ago when websites came out. And, only the big companies had a website. You had to pay a couple teenagers who were tech geeks a lot of money in order to get a website. So no small business could afford it. And companies like WordPress came out and said, no, everyone deserves basically sustainability, a website, and that this is going to be standard. And now we look back and say, oh, wow, and this is a time. I think every business deserves to have a credible one. And we've developed a couple of free tools to get everyone there. And then at that point that you need extra help, you can keep upgrading with the plans, so that as your knowledge and ambition raises, so do the tools that you have at your disposal. And it's not either you're in or either you're out to be able to do this type of engagement. So these are our 3 tools so far. One is a quick assessment tool. I invite you all to check it out. It just introduces you to the SDGs and identifies what SDGs you contribute to. We call it the Google Translate of sustainability. Connect is sort of like a LinkedIn for sustainable businesses. It has everything similar to that, a news feed, you build your own profile, and you can connect with community members. And the last one's coming soon, and this is why we're excited to partner with Seattle Good Business Network, is our Manage tool, which is the actual data management. You get guidance on what are credible indicators, how to tell your story, and you can actually gather data and get visuals and graphics that you can put straight onto your sustainability reports and share that either through social media as a report or as a web link. Okay, I'm going to stop there and just open it up to any questions you have.
Thanks so much, Yolanda. Sorry, my mute was still on. But yeah, again, if anyone has questions, feel free to unmute yourself or throw it up in the chat box. I did get a couple questions prior to the Learning Lab, so maybe we can start there, Yolanda, if that works for you.
Sounds good.
Great. And again, if this is one of your questions, for those of you in the room, feel free to jump in and clarify if you want to add any more details or anything like that. So Kari, I think, who is here from Puddles Barkery, wanted to know how to communicate better about kind of the different aspects of their products in terms of using whole ingredients that are health beneficial, locally sourced, and then also, you know, really highlighting that the treats that they make, dog treats, are preservative free. And Kari mentioned that it's hard to stress all of these points at once. And so I think they're looking for suggestions on, you know, how best to convey to Seattleites, you know, what they want to hear first about the dog treats and how to do that.
And I also, just to add to that, I didn't know about the SDGs and like kind of the categories for that. So I think figuring out where some of those values lie in the categories will probably be helpful. But yeah, I'd be open for any suggestions because I've got a lot of values, very community sourced. I partner with a lot of people, but getting all of it out there and being like, yeah, but you should also buy my treats is not always easy.
Yeah, and I love that, okay, that you've actually already made those connections, because it seems difficult, and you know, in some ways people are, oh no, you know, this is too difficult, but already you've proven, you know, you see where you link in. And so when I hear that question, I'm like, that has always been the problem. You talk, we have to talk about characteristics of our products, but actually if we talk about it instead about how those characteristics contribute to something that clients value. So when you say locally sourced, you're like, yeah, I'm contributing to, you know, a decent economy, an inclusive economy here in Seattle. Do you care about that? Yes, I contribute by this way. And you can also see how other people contribute to that, but that in some ways brings people together. And then when you say that it is preservative free, I look at this, I'm like, wow, you're contributing to SDG 3 on good health, because you're providing nutritious food, and that is important. You're also preventing, you know, pollution, all of this. So instead of, this is the problem, you're trying to write one sentence that appeals to everyone. But by linking what you're doing to these global goals, you can say, look, who cares about really nutritious food? I have a solution for you. I have a product for you. Or who cares about inclusive communities? I have a product for you. And that way you can start that conversation, not about the features, but about what you're solving and the big challenge that you are that you're paying attention to when you made that choice in your product design. So thank you. I hope that's helpful.
Thanks, Yolanda. I know you kind of touched on this, but another more general question was how businesses can identify the SDGs that they contribute to. I wonder, yeah, the tool that you mentioned, the Explorer, really, yeah, popped into my head. But
all right, that sounds good. Thanks, Nico. I will do a really quick peek then at the Explore tool, and yeah, let's go and take a look at that. Just going to share my screen.
Sorry, only if that's like the easiest thing.
Okay, just a second. So what we have is what we realize is with 17 SDGs and underneath it 169 targets, that, and they're written for government. So how do you as a small business actually find your path within these 169 really complicated wording? Believe me, some of them are like sustainable industrialization, or some very terrible choices of language, to be honest, that I don't think anyone could understand. So we actually spent 2 years researching how we could translate that into something that is business relevant, and not only business relevant, but relevant to small business. And we've come up with the Explore tool, which has taken those 169 targets within these 17 goals and turn them into 105 business actions. Now that sounds like a lot, but in generally what you have in there is per SDG between 3 to at a maximum 10 things that you could do within that SDG. And it's sort of a pyramid. You can keep learning at the level that you want. You first look at the SDGs, you start exploring those 3 to 10. And then in our managed tool, we then have done a research on what are the leading actions that companies are doing, what are the leading indicators that they're using to report on that progress. Like if they're contributing to water, is it water efficiency, is it clean water? And if so, how are they calculating that in terms of, something as basic as water reduction use, but something as creative as, number of land that has been saved, or people who were able to access water because the water was not drained from the supply. So that is basically the work that we have. I'll share my screen now with the tool just to show a step-by-step. That first step of identifying what SDGs and what overarching areas you'd be interested in is this Explore tool. It's freely available on our website. You go in here, you just get started, and you can also get familiar with the look and feel of our tools. And within 3 easy steps, you get an impact profile. Tell us a bit about your business. We give you some recommendations of which SDGs are most relevant to you based on an algorithm we have. And this is sort of the whole how Facebook takes data and finds out about you and kind of directs you to the right things. We hope to use that type of a data analysis for good. And then within each SDG, you explore certain impact opportunities. So in terms of the questions, the really quick questions first are simply where you work, and then what sectors that you work in. So I think here we could probably look a lot at apparel, perhaps accessories and footwear. I know that's important in Seattle. And you get a recommendation of the top 3 SDGs you should look at, just to be not overwhelming. And each of these has an explanation of what that SDG is. And so SDG 12, we say, why it's important. The fact that as populations increase, the consumption does as well, and the raw materials we're relying on run out. And these are statements that you can start using in your sustainability reporting, because this is all based on international data. You can see here along the bottom why it's important, because it's important in your country. It's an area that is at risk because of your own sector practices, or it's an area where you can actually have an opportunity to innovate. So the apparel industry here clearly has a great opportunity to innovate in terms of more sustainable consumption patterns, but they're also a big risk. So, and in the US, there's a lot of need to be paid attention to. So we can dig a bit deeper here, just so you know, you can look at all of these. So you can see the SDGs ranked, all 17, you can explore. This is very much a learning tool as well as a business support tool. But let's just look at SDG 12 for now. This is just a discussion of how you can make impact, and it's everything from good worker rights to advocacy and partnerships to making your operations green to your supply chain, community impact, products and services. And I think a lot of people here are interested in products and services, and possibly all of them. But this also starts tailoring your profile so that you can get the right information to you. So looking at SDG 12, here's the 7 areas that link to the global goals. And it's everything from responsible management of your waste and chemicals, reducing, reusing, or recycling, reducing food waste, using raw materials efficiency or reusing and repurposing materials, raising consumer awareness on sustainable choices, reporting your own sustainability impacts so that you're driving the discussion, and then also procuring sustainably. So this is where you can see, you can start learning how to talk about the goals in each of these, you can flip and we have some sample actions to just get a better idea of what do we concretely mean. You can click on any of these that you believe that you're contributing to, and at the end, you get a profile that you can download, you can share to start discussions in your organization. And actually, this leads right into the impact profile in Connect, which is, as I said, sort of the LinkedIn. So all of this work that you did here isn't lost. You immediately get your profile set up, ready to go, and you can keep building on it and keep changing it as you're learning. So thanks, Nico. I hope that answered that question.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to reopen it back up to everyone to see if there are any questions following that little demo of the Explore tool. Either in the chat box, or you can feel free to unmute yourself. No.
I have another question. So for the Connect, obviously getting multiple people on this would be great. What is your community like so far?
Very good question. So this is a brand new tool. And we are working with Seattle. So what we've been sort of R&Ding this for years, and we're trying to say, where are there pockets of real sustainability innovation? Because if we're going to trigger this, we want to engage businesses that are doing really great stuff already, so that the first few profiles that are on there are going to inspire everyone else that comes on here. So we actually have 4 pilots going at the same time. So we're working with the Seattle Good Business Network right now. We're working with a private sector organization in Uganda as well. We also have a banking community in Ghana, Accra, who is looking to promote financial inclusion across Ghana, and also business associations here in France. So we're a French and US-based company right now. So our idea here is to just work closely with our first early adopters to make it work, get some great profiles up, really build this and co-design it together in a way that I think we've got our idea of what would work. We've pilot tested it with a couple businesses, but this is our first broad launch to groups. So yeah, we're excited to see, does it suit? But anyone who joins now really becomes part of a co-design process. You know, did this work? Is this the type of reporting you'd like to do? What additional support makes sense? And how can we spread what you're doing with what all the other businesses are doing? And we end up working a lot with the United Nations as well. And so they do have a number of business associations that are interested in joining as soon as we allow a new group of businesses to come on. And I have to admit, they're quite interested in the fact that there are Seattle-based businesses, because they do know that there is, especially for circular economy and local agriculture, some very interesting practices.
Thanks for the question, Kari and Yolanda, for that answer. If no one else has any other questions, I have a few more here. So Yolanda, I know that businesses can tailor profiles and actions as well as the indicators. And so I'm not sure, I know you went into a little bit about that on the Explore tool, but also from that report that's generated, how can businesses really leverage that and use that?
All right. I'll pop over to the Connect tool so you can take a look as we talk about that. So for us, this was trying to put sustainability reporting into the hands of small businesses, not as a reactive thing, but as a proactive thing that actually works for you. And as Carrie was saying, yeah, you have different stakeholders different people, clients who are interested in different things. How do you, as a small business, find the time to write up something that is tailor-made for each one of them? And this is what we hoped that we could do here. You should be able to see our impact profile for Impacti. And this shows the outline of what you get in terms of your LinkedIn-esque profile. And it's based on what we saw is generally in a sustainability report. So first, you have a section where you can talk about who you are, what basically as a business. Secondly, what your mission is in terms of sustainability. What is your vision? Why are you interested in this? And why are you writing this report at all? All of this in terms of key facts, your locations, sectors, and your key SDGs come in automatically from your Explorer, and you can change that through this profile. And in here, you can actually start writing, what's the challenge? You know, what do you believe? And that's actually editable. And within each of the issues that you decided to prioritize, you can actually write stories, as we did here, of how we're helping companies report on sustainability impacts by providing this impact tool. We provide our website, we talk about some of our achievements, some of our targets, and how this contributes to some of the big global challenges. We have all sorts of guidance that helps people write this. This is all done here in the edit profile. So that's where you can start typing in, changing everything, tailoring your profile. And then this is sort of answers your question, Nico, where now you've got different stakeholders. How do you share in different ways? This eye allows you to turn on and off whether you want this to be viewable. So you can actually create a custom report for different people. If you just want to talk about your mission statement and tweet about that, then you just turn that on, turn everything else, and you can click on Impact Report. And that actually produces a link that can be added to your website and or downloaded as a report, printed out as a report if need be, that has an opening, has all of that flow that you would naturally have. And we have an example of one. Here we go. So this is the automatic. It would have your logo. It would provide a link out if you needed to. And I'll actually just show one that we just created together with a client. And so this is actually a company in Uganda that takes waste. I think the government of Uganda banned plastic bags in 2007. And the CEO of this company was a university student who went into industrial design and came up with a way to take waste from farms, households, etc., and turn them into packaging. Bags, packaging, so that businesses could respond to this ban on plastic bags. So we've produced this report using the tool, just telling what they do, their mission, their facts, their SDG impact. And it starts usually with a CEO statement or a big statement of why SDGs are important, an introduction of why they're engaged. This is the standard text about them. Next, their standard text about their sustainability mission, their key facts, and then their SDG impact. So they chose 4 different SDGs to contribute to. And for each of those SDGs, they talked about what they did and what some of their impact was and how they actually contributed to big goals. So when they said they worked in SDG 12 on consumption, they talked about the waste that they collected and repurposed, the trees that they saved from extraction, and how many plastic bags they replaced with eco-friendly products. And they were able to say, look, and this contributes to these really big goals that we say as a society is important in terms of, reducing waste, sustainably managing our natural resources, helping consumers understand and lead healthy lifestyles and make sustainable choices, and also responsibly manage the waste that we do produce. So that's an example of the type of reporting and the type of customization that you can do in the tool. Thanks, Nico, for the question.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I have a follow-up from Kari. She was wondering what the best ways to share Impacti with business contacts in terms of just sharing the website, I'm guessing the Explorer tool, and then whether there's any social media yet.
Thanks, Gary. Yes, absolutely. We are excited to go out with trusted partners across Seattle. So please absolutely share. And we do have a Twitter account, and our first blog went up. So I invite everyone to check out our website. It kind of talks about our vision, why we formed this company, and the type of change that we hope to drive together with the businesses that join the platform.
I have a quick question that I know a lot of the businesses that we work with in our network, often consider when engaging with a new resource or tool. And, as you mentioned, there are so many out there, a lot of them being just either standardized checklists. What, can a small business expect in terms of like time commitment, consistent engagement, and use of the tool with Impacti, and how does that become a more, how does that stay, a useful yet convenient tool in the day-to-day for a small business?
Yeah. No, thanks, Nico, for that question. I think for us, the good thing is that because sustainability reporting really is emerging, especially for SMEs or for small businesses. I keep saying SMEs, I apologize. That's United Nations terminology for small and medium-sized business. I've had to try to eradicate all of those terms from my mind. I called attention to, the early days of LinkedIn. When LinkedIn came out, we weren't sure whether it would be useful, but we've tried to model it the same way, where if you're just interested and you're not sure that reporting is for you, you can just join for free. You can get that profile up. The Explore assessment, if you go through quickly, can take 20 minutes. If you go through and see everything, it can take as long as you want, because there's a lot of learning in there. But to quickly identify, 20 minutes. You can get your profile up there. You don't even have to fill it out at first. And you can benefit from the newsfeed. And we do have a research team that is constantly updating with the newsfeed with particular news that are important to SMEs about SDGs. I'll just quickly share my screen, and anyone who understands sort of the hashtag system, we have kind of thought about, okay, you as a business, there's so much information out there. How do you keep up with all of that? And that's what we're hoping to do here, because here with this system, you see that a lot of the resources here are us, but we are, hopefully this is a conversation, and like LinkedIn, users and everyone starts having their conversations. But for now, it's a resource library. So if you're interested in repurposing materials, you're interested in textiles, you can put in, what could I learn about textiles in here? And immediately, let me see. Yeah. You can immediately see what's out there in terms of standards, what other people are doing. So there's a roadmap to zero, and they set out different best practices. Better Cotton, if you're dealing with cotton. A Textile Exchange is a really great partnership that has all these videos, guidance on how to promote better textile choices, etc. And it'll take a little bit of time, like any other hashtag system, to understand it. But here we have a little help button that really explains all of that. What can I find in my newsfeed? Everything from news, events, guidance, data. If you're trying to build a business case and show real statistics of why this is important, case studies of what other businesses are doing, standards and metrics, partnerships, financing, marketplace, what other products are out there that could possibly help you or to showcase your own products, and discussions that are out there. So the choice of how you engage really much is yours, and you can pop in here in the community and say, okay, I want to know who else in Seattle, or right now it's at the US, is in here, or for example, who else is working in a particular SDG. So just for someone who's just starting out, just getting on here, getting access to these free tools, and starting to understand why it could be helpful, that's good. For those who are already interested and committed, yeah, there's going to be a time commitment, but that will just be aligned with your ambition, how far you want to go. And what's great is a lot of it, we try to make as much available through the tool, but it's always backed up if you need extra help with our team of experts.
Thanks, Yolanda, and for sharing the feed. I think it really helps to see how folks would be able to interact with each other on that. All right, last call for questions from the group, either unmuting yourself or popping it in the chat box. If not, I have one last question for you and Impacti. What are you all up to next at Impacti? What, future vision, we'd love to know.
All right, so as you know, we believe in having a big vision and getting started on it. So yeah, Impacti has a pretty big vision of where we're going, and we have a really big committed team to this. So we've started with these tools, these free tools, these engagement tools. We think that the SDGs in general are important, so that's why our first tool focuses on that. But we're now developing tools that dig in deeper into some of the big issues that businesses are working on. And so our next upcoming tools are going to be tools on helping small businesses calculate and manage their carbon footprint, and find ways to and opportunities for greening. So everything from advice to calculation and being able to do that credibly. And then also we're developing a gender module, and then also looking to possibly expand that into gender and diversity. We know this is quite an important topic. And so this is where our expanse is going. And so this is also in terms of our engagement with Seattle businesses. There's kind of 3 levels that we'd love to hear your interest in. And the first is just sign into the Explore tool and get started. And we'd actually like to offer that the first 20 companies that get onto the Explore and set up their profile in Connect are invited in a month to just a special training program where we'll go through and show exactly how to use these tools, provide some advice on how to build up your profiles. And so please, we'll be taking a look out there. Feel free to check us out on Twitter, join us, or write us to let us know that you're interested into that program. Signing up itself will just let us know. So we'll be keeping track of that. Secondly, as we're developing these 2 new tools, we're interested in companies that are interested in our early adopter program. So if you are interested in climate, want to know how to green your operations, know how to credibly design and talk about the green credentials, environmentally friendly credentials of your products and services, let us know, get in touch. My email, I'll show it at the end, is there. And so there's that. And then the third one is the opportunity to also pilot and be part of the early adopter program of our gender module as well. So if those are issues that you care about and you're interested in becoming part of a co-design process where we're designing tools together that we hope will be of benefit to small businesses around the world, please do get in touch.
Thanks, Yolanda. That sounds super exciting. And I know there were at least 5 or 6 businesses who reached out to me letting me know that wouldn't be able to make this, but we're super interested in hearing and watching the recording. And I'll also be including them as well as everyone here in our follow-up email with your contact information as well as links and ways to reach out to you all if they're interested in joining that program. Yes. Any final questions before I think we can end a few minutes early here, unless Yolanda, you have anything additional to share, although that was a pretty comprehensive next step offer.
Oh, thank you. No, just to thank Nico and the team. We've had many discussions leading up to this to make sure that this was something that we felt was useful, that could be useful. And that conversation is still going. So we love that you think that it's great. And we look forward to getting the feedback from businesses themselves on how we can make that even more suitable to both your individual business needs, but also the collaborations that you wish that you could drive across the Seattle business community. Get in touch. This is a tool that isn't meant to let small businesses stand by themselves, but get recognition for what they're doing and get connected to do even more. So thanks everyone for joining. I really appreciate the time and look forward to hearing more from you. Please get in touch at any time.
Thank you so much, Yolanda. This was amazing, and definitely will be reaching out to our network and sharing more about this as it develops as well, especially. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing all of this with us. And thank you everyone for coming today, this morning. I know virtual meetings are always, for quite a few these days. So appreciate everyone's time and hope you were able to find some unique properties, characteristics on the Impacti tool.